when the Fed raises a rate, that's basically the rate that banks lend to other banks. So it's when banks lend money, that's the rate they have. So for a while, it was at 0%. So when a bank's lending money on a car loan or a line of credit, they're borrowing it at 0% and they're passing the interest onto the consumer. So obviously, eventually that has to go up, right? It can't be zero forever. And with inflation and everything, what they're trying to do is increase that rate to slow down inflation. What happened this time was, I think I talked on the last time, Chaz, when you and me is, the rates, they're anticipating the Fed increasing rates like they did. What they didn't anticipate was they went up 75 basis points. They were anticipating more of a 25 to 50 points increase. When they heard it went to 75 basis points, that's when Monday the rates shot up almost a point. So Monday was a crazy day. Obviously, the stock market, as Byron mentioned, dropped, but the mortgage rates went up huge on Monday. So Monday morning, we're looking at the low fives. By the end of the day, Monday, they were in the low to mid sixes. So it was a bad day in the market, the worst day in 15 years. I think it's been a long time since that happened, and the rates just been up and down ever since. I think. They were up to the high sixes at one point, and now we're back down to the high fives, but the rates have been all over the place. I'm just hoping they become stable so we can get some consistency with the rates.
Brian, you've been doing this a long time now, and so obviously,
maybe too long.
Experienced, seasoned, we'll call it seasoned. And obviously the Fed has done rate hikes before, right? Obviously not in this capacity or in this frequency or at this high of a level. But have the rates always kind of followed that, like they shoot up in anticipation, or is this something that's kind of been brought on by all the uncertainty?
You mean when the Fed increases the rate, do our rates shoot up?
Correct.
More or less, yes. So they're correlated because then, everything gets passed on to the consumer, right? So now the Fed's increasing their rate, banks are higher rates, they're going to pass that on to the consumer. So usually it does, but what people think, like, again, when the Fed rate was zero, I got many phone calls like, hey, I want that 0% interest rate. I'm like, nope, it doesn't work that way.
No.
Those are the bank's rates, not lender rates.
So CNBC reported that there could be potentially another 75
in July.
Yeah. Another hike in July at 75. But however, that doesn't always mean that the rates have to go up with
Not
it.
always. So what they're going to try to do, which I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to try to increase the Fed rate without increasing the mortgage rate, which will be interesting.
I think that would be great. I think that would be, because we get it. Like, we got to kind of, I used to work for a gentleman by the name of Mayor Buddy Cianci. He used to say, hey, we all know what the medicine is. We just don't want to take it. Yep. So we know this has to go in this direction. But like I said, it goes back to just trying to get used to the pool water, right? Like, if you're going to bump this thing back up again in July, it's like, where's this stability? So I would love to see a stick somewhere, even if it goes up 75, it's kind of like be floating. This is just, it's like you said, it's madness, right? So I don't know how many times my buyers should be calling you to see if they can still get if they still can get the house, if it's too much. So what would you say to a potential buyer right now? They're going to call you today and they're like, hey, look, we want to buy, but this is just all over the place. How would you approach this from a buyer standpoint?
I always tell people, listen, lock the rate, because you don't know what it's going to be. And let's just say we get you at 5.8 Monday morning, you're going to be much more upset if you don't lock in. It goes to 6.2 than if it goes to 5.6. So I always say it's always better to lock. Just lock the rate. We can't control it. It's almost like the stock market. Everyone wants to hit it at the low. It's almost impossible to hit at the low because no one knows what it is. If you hit the low, you're just lucky. Because anyone tells you they know where the rates are going. They don't. No one knows where these rates are going. I always say, let's be comfortable with the payment, lock it in, and move on from there. But
the obvious low was the last 2 years when there was a whole bunch of trolls on the internet saying, oh my gosh, don't buy in this market. These prices are so inflated, and people were locking into 2.5%, 2.75%, 3%, 3.25%. They're all laughing right now because they have a financial asset that's hedging against inflation, the home that they bought the last 2 years, and they're locked in for 30 years at a ridiculously low rate. Another thing that we've got to consider with, what's happening right now has always happened in the past. The 1970s interest rate was over 8% for mortgages. The 1980s, the average was over 12%. The 1990s, the average was over 8%. The 2000s, the average was over 6%. It's only been the 2010s where we got close to 4, and the average was just about 4% over that decade. So it's been the last 10 years where we've gotten accustomed to about 4%, but the 40 years, the 4 decades before that, that wasn't the case.